Okay, so after our little activity there with figuring out which set of gold you would rather have, we have a foldable to help you remember the activity. So the first one that you've got, you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut this out and you're going to glue it all down. You're just going to glue it flat down. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to demonstrate what you learned today by picking 3 colors, or picking 2 colors is all you need. So one color is for one of your triangles. We'll call this A squared. Another color is B squared. And then you're going to show that C squared is the same sum of B squared plus these 9 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. Look at that. You've proven the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, this one you're going to cut out, and you're going to glue only the middle part down so that these fold up and you can still look at what was going on underneath. You're going to need to label this a little bit. This needs to be labeled with this little mark. What does this mark mean? Right, it means that this is a right triangle. The Pythagorean theorem only works with right triangles, so this must be a right triangle. Okay, we're going to label our 3 sides, A, B, and C. I did it sideways so that I have room to write the dimensions. Well, now I'm going to write the lengths. The length of side A is 3, length of side B is 4, length of side C is 5. And now let's go ahead and look at the areas of our squares here. Well, A squared, B squared, and C squared. What is the area of A squared? That's 9 units squared. What is the area of B squared? That's 16 units squared. What is the area of C squared? 25 units squared. And look at that. A squared plus B squared, 9 plus 16 equals 25. And so somewhere on this page, maybe underneath, well, I don't know how you glued yours down, somewhere on this page, you're going to write down the theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay. So, some notes. This is the other page that you're going to do. We already have it labeled as 90 degrees, so we're set there. And we've got some vocabulary. So let's label A, B, and C. And these two don't necessarily matter, A and B. I could have called this A and B. This one definitely matters. This is C. Okay, this is the longest side here. It is also the side that is opposite that 90-degree angle. These are called legs. A and B are always the legs, and they're the 2 shorter sides, but most importantly you refer to them as the legs. They're the sides from that 90-degree angle. C must always be, okay, this is the fun word to say, it's the hypotenuse. And as I said before, that is the longest side. And the triangle, what did I say earlier? The triangle has to be a what? Has to be a right triangle. And just to make sure that it's really in your head, somewhere on this page, maybe underneath where it says Pythagorean theorem, would you please write once again, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and make it pretty. All right, let's go ahead and start putting this to use. So here I have a triangle, a right triangle, and it's not drawn to scale, so you're going to go, oh, these are all the same. Of course they're not. And we have A, B, and C. They're labeled for us. We have a table here that we can use. But we don't have the lengths of either A, B, or C, but we can figure them out easily enough. So if A squared is 36, and B squared is 81, well, what does that mean A is going to be? If this is A squared, what is A going to be? It's going to be the square root of that. It's going to be 6. If this is B squared, then that means B has to be the square root of that, which is going to be 9. And now how am I going to find out the area of C? Well, all I have to do is add A squared plus B squared to get C squared. That's going to be 117. And now I've got to do some math to figure out what this length is going to be. So I've got to estimate what is the square root of 117. About Well, that's going to be somewhere between the square root of 100 and the square root of 121. So it's going to be somewhere between 10 and 11. And think about how far away 117 is from each of these numbers. It's 17 away from there, it's 4 away from there. It's going to be really close to that. And in fact, when I check it with math, it's going to be 10.8. So side of length C is 10.8 units. Okay, let's do another one. Actually, if you could pause and try this one, if you think you're ready, go ahead and try this one, because this is just like the one we did. But if not, that's okay. So what I have is I'm going to plug in what I know. Well, I know that C squared is 169. I know that B squared is 25. So now we can figure out the lengths of these sides. Well, the square root of 25 is 5, so the length of side B is 5 units. Square root of 169 is 13. And now I need to figure out, well, what's the area of this square going to be? Now this time I need to subtract. And remember, he warned us, this isn't drawn to scale. So this is going to look, it's going to actually end up being bigger. That's okay. So I'm going to subtract. 169 minus 25 is going to give me the area of that square, which is 144 units. So the area of that square is 144. How am I going to find out how long that side is? I've got to take the square root of that. Luckily, it's a perfect square. That's 12. Okay. Now, in class, let's do the next one. Okay, this time we're giving different information. We're given the length of this side is 6. So the length of side A is 6. And the area of B is 64. So I'll plug those two things in. I did it in a different order, sorry. And I can figure out, well, the area of this square, 6 squared, has to be 36. And now I'm going to use the square root to figure out what the length of that side must be. That must be 8. So the side of A is 6, and the side of B is 8. Now we're going to figure out what is the length of side C. So first, because A squared plus B squared equals C squared, I can add these together, get 100. Oh, yay, that's nice and easy. C must be the square root of C squared. That's going to be 10. Okay, now you should start pausing these and trying them on your own. Play when you're ready. Okay, I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that the length of side C is 17. I know that the area of A squared is 64. So what's the length of A is 8. That's the square root of 64. What's the area of C squared? Well, that's 17 squared. That's 289. Yes, I had to use scratch paper. And so what does B have to be? Well, B has to be something that I'm going to add to A to get to C squared. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's going to be 225. And now I'm going to take the square root. So these, I can figure out what do I add to get that. But it doesn't work this way, right? Instead, I have to take the square root. Square root of that is 15. So I have the length of this side of the triangle is 8. The length of B is 15, and the length of C is 17. Okay, if you're not pausing and trying, you definitely need to now. I'm going to plug into the table what I know. I'm going to find the areas of A squared and B squared. Find what C squared is, and then figure out the square root of 325 to figure out the length of side C. 18.03. All right, plug in what I know. Find A squared and C squared. How am I going to know what B squared is? I'm going to need to find the difference of these to figure out what to add. And then how do I figure out what B is? Square root of 240. Use your scratch paper. You've got to be able to do this without a calculator. Okay. Let me get you just a little bit ready for the homework. So what's up top? It just asks you to label the parts of a triangle. So label A, B, C, label the legs and the hypotenuse, and tell which side is the longest. This one sounds a little bit weird. So you're going to state the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You're going to label the sides of the triangle. And you're going to illustrate it with squares. So this is A, B, and C. So that's 3, 4, and 5. I've just picked numbers from here. And now I'm going to show with squares that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if I do the math, A squared is 9, B squared is 4, C squared is 25. So that's 9, 16, and 25. And what is A squared plus B squared? Look at that. That's 25. You do the next one on your own. You go ahead and complete the table on your own. It's okay to leave it as square roots in this case, instead of estimating it. You can do that for this table. All right, see you in class.